You can still see my slides, right?
We can.
You can. Okay, very good. Very good. Okay, we'll get started. Hari Om, everyone. Welcome to our 44th session of Bhagavad Gita. We had a break for 2 weeks and now we are back in action. Chapter 3 is on action, so I guess we are back in action. So we'll get started. Om. 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 Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu Mavit Vishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Parthaya Pratibodhitam Bhagavatam Narayanena Swayam Vyasena Gratitam Purana Munina Madhye Mahabharatam Advaitam Vritavarshinim Bhagavatim Ashtadashadhyayinim Ambatvam Anusandathami Bhagavad Gita Bhavatveshini. Namostu te vyasa vishala buddhe Pulla ravindayata patra netra Yena tvaya bharata taila purnaha Prajvalito jnanamayah pradipaha Prapanna parijataya Totra vetraikapanaye Jnanamudraya Krishnaya Gitamrutaduhe namaha. Sarvadharman parityajya Mamekam sharanam vraja Aham tva sarva papebhyah Mokshayishyami ma shuchaha. So we are on the 3rd chapter of Bhagavad Gita, probably one of the most relevant chapters for us at the stage that we are in our lives, where we are always doing some form of the action or the other. So with this, let's get into our time where we try to reflect on some of these shlokas. And last time, 2 weeks ago, when we met, we did our reflection on shloka number 17. Today, we'll take up shloka number 18 for our reflection here. So this shloka is about Naiva tasya krite narthaha na akrite neha kaschana nachasya sarva bhuteshu kaschidartavya pashrayaha. So I would like to get your feel for what does the shloka really mean to us?
YouTube is working fine. Just I want to let you know. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you, Sridharji. Any thoughts on the shloka? It's kind of a very important shloka, very meditative, and something which, we can keep in mind as to where we are, as to which identity we identify ourselves.
Hari
What do you
Om.
think? Hari Om.
Hari Om. I mean, it for a realized master, he or she, they have attained that stage where they are one with Brahman. They have they, so whatever they do, whatever, it's all for seva, it is for all for us, it is nothing for them. Whatever they put in, all the effort they put in, it is all for us. There's nothing for them to gain out of it. They have nothing in it. There's no stake in it. They have attained they have become one with Brahman, and they've also realized that everything around them, there's nothing different for them. Me and you, there's no duality for them. Me is I is you, there's no difference between me and you. So
very good.
so that's does he in spite of every, this all is in I'm reminded of Vivek Chudamani, the whole in that Adi Shankaracharya, he's and Swami Chinmayananda, the explanation that he gives, how the realized soul is like they don't depend on anything. It's nothing external. It is all internal. They have become they have realized that self, the big self, is within the small self inside, and this is that is what I understood from this.
Okay, very good. Any other thoughts from anybody on this shloka with regard to the way the Suvarna put it very nicely, which is this is about a realized soul, but particularly in this shloka there is something which I'm putting this up here, but let me put what the question is. So the question is, what is the difference between the person described in this shloka and we, the common people? That's the question. What is the difference between the person described in the shloka and us pertaining to this particular shloka?
We, the common people, work for a profit, a gain, or for happiness. But the one who is realized, he doesn't have, like Suvarna said, doesn't need anything to be happy or fulfilled. We need to be fulfilled or need something. He works without need and we work for some need. Very good, Meenu. Awesome. And here you will see there is some other things which is also said. What you rightly said, that we tend to act for fulfillment. We tend to look for things to gain happiness. But here the key thing he says, there's no compulsion to act. Na eva tasya kritena artaha. Artaha, for any kind of material gains. This person is not, looking to act at all, and still the person is happy. And they don't even have any na akritena iha kaschana, not even any compulsion not to act in the world. This is also very critical, because one may argue that if the person doesn't have any need to act, why is the person even acting? They can just sit quietly. But here, this is not even any compulsion not to act. So they just do whatever they have to do in the world. But the difference between a person who is a jnani, a mahatma, a realized person, and us is that we are constantly doing it with the attitude of what is in it for me. If I don't have something for me, then I might tend to just stay quiet, not even get involved with anything. So that's the way that the shloka is this. And then, nacha asya sarva bhuteshu kaschid artha vyapashrayaha, which is, ashraya means dependence. Here, vyapashrayaha, there's absolutely no dependence on any object. If something comes their way, they have it. If they don't, if something doesn't come, that's okay too. So that's the beauty about this shloka. So I just wanted to point out some of these shlokas in third chapter, which is also of the highest truth. But here specifically, the idea is when you look at somebody walking on the road, it's not as if a person, a jnani, would have any, they would be wearing any special clothes
or anything. The person could be just like any one of us, but the attitude with which they approach anything is the difference. So that's why the shloka is powerful. Any other thoughts? I know we had the 2-week break, so I just thought I'll spend a little time to get your thoughts about the shloka before we move on to some other beautiful aspects of third chapter. Okay, if there's nothing else, then let's move on. So the whole idea, I think Meenu touched upon this too, is the nature itself. The nature of us is happiness. And we are that infinite source of happiness. As Chandogya Upanishad puts it here, Yovai Bhuma Tat Sukham Na Alpe Sukham Asti. Na Alpe, Alpe in the finite, Na Alpe Sukham Asti. There is no happiness there. That which is infinite is the source of happiness. So if we apply this equation, if then a realized person doesn't have to look outside for happiness, obviously the person is happiness herself or himself. Therefore, he or she doesn't have to go. And if that is the case, then that person is also infinite. So that which is infinite is the source of happiness. So with us, so then for us, like last time, I had put those 2 roads. So our goal of human life, the reason why we've been given this body, mind, and intellect then, is to constantly recognize. It's only to recognize that I am happiness myself. I don't have to look outside for happiness. So that's the pursuit. That's why we have been given these equipments, to use them effectively and really in a very discreet fashion to understand that the happiness of happiness is within myself. So we move on to shloka number 19. So then the one of the concluding shlokas of this section was, we said, if indeed I am happiness, then how do I act in this world? The way we act in this world then is asaktaha. Asaktaha. Saktaha means to, is the association or attachment, and asaktaha is without attachment. Therefore, anything and everything, let me always do my kartavya karma or my obligatory duties. Karyam karma samachara, do it extremely well. Asaktaha, and so just without any attachment. And it's only and only when I do anything and everything without any need for the fulfillment, without any need for anyone praising me, without any need for someone giving me anything. So when I do that, acting without attachment, it's only then that evolution happens for each one of us, in which sense we are really evolving, progressing in whatever we do. So that having said, the next section that we went to, which we discussed some of the shlokas here, were, if that is the case, show me some role models. Who are the role models whom I can look up to, from whom I can learn? As human beings, we are creatures of imitation, in the sense we look and gravitate towards people who can teach us. So with that, the shloka we saw was karmanyaiva hi samsiddhi astita janakadeyaha loka sangraha mevapi sampashyan kartum arhasi. So the examples have been chosen very carefully to say that Arjuna, who is a king, of course, would like to have only examples from role models who are like him. Therefore, you have King Janaka and many other examples of rishis have been given to say that those people actually acted in ruling the world in a very asaktaha manner, so without any attachment. Even for the sake of protection of the masses, having in view, you should perform action. So then, having given the examples of Janaka, Sri Krishna then tells Arjuna that now that I've given you this, recognize that for in your job of being the king and fighting this war, you should also act in such a way that you should not worry about who is getting killed or whether you're going to win or anything. You just do it because that is your kartavya karma. Again, that was the clear example for this. Do your obligatory duties, do what is in line with our own skills, our own passion. So as they say in the modern world too, is that be your own unique brand. This is a typical management thing, which they say, don't try to imitate somebody else because everybody else is taken. So just be yourself. So that brought to one of the most important shlokas we saw last time, which is the shloka 21, because again, Sri Krishna wanted to explain to Arjuna that who is a leader? Again, telling Arjuna about it's not what he preaches, but it is actually what he does. And this is the beauty in Bhagavad Gita. We saw that, which is walking the talk or talk the walk. That is the aspect, a key aspect of leadership, which I'm sure the walk the talk came from this shloka number 321. 321 is the one for walk the talk, which has been translated, I think. I cannot say for sure, but it very well might be, because leadership is not about what you put in mission and vision statements, but to be the person who people can look up to. So with that, we saw the shloka, yada charati shreshtaha tat evataro janaha sayat pramanam kurute lokas tadanu vartate, which is whatever a person does. So yat acharati shreshtaha. Shreshtaha is all those people who have the ability to lead people. All those people who are either leaders, and at homes, of course, parents are leaders for the children, teachers, community leaders, politicians, lawyers, whoever, doctors, anybody. Shreshtaha, so that whatever they do, it is only that which is followed by other people. One may talk any amount, but if they don't do it, then that is no good. So only that is imitated. And then whatever the person does, that happens to become the gold standard. Pramanam means the standard. So yat pramanam kurute lokaha tat anuvartate. Anuvartate meaning they follow. So this is the beautiful thing about, so acharati, yat acharati shreshtaha. So I thought I would use this time to explain then who is an Acharya. Acharya, so you can see the word char in here, the acharati, acharati, connected to the word Acharya. Acharam grahyati acharam dadati iti va. That is etymologically, you can say, is the definition for Acharya. So Acharya is the one who teaches good conduct to one's students, but it is not just teaching as in just teaching, but it is teaching by doing. So just a little bit of Sanskrit here to say that, you have a is the prefix and nyat at the end is the suffix, and the root itself is actually char or char, if you might want to say. And the root char actually means to go, to eat, to behave, act, move, etc. So Acharya means one who goes, eats, behaves, etc. As this is all what Acharya means here. But we know that Acharya also means a teacher who expounds the meaning of mantras, a teacher, spiritual guide, holy teacher, etc. So all this is the word for Acharya. So according to our Sanatana Dharma, Acharya is not really a person who just knows the knowledge, but is a person who practices, Acharati, the one who practices this knowledge. And interestingly, Swami Vivekananda, he has said that, it's really easy to find teachers to teach subjects like chemistry or physics or maths or anything. But it is extremely difficult to find an Acharya, to find the spiritual teacher or Acharya. And the reason why he said that is how literally a moral compass is, devised by lifestyle. In our secular subjects, which is tied towards the materialistic world, it's very hard to become an absolute teacher. But when it comes to our life, it is possible for us to push in such a way that we can go to the ultimate level of spirituality and be in that mode of an Acharya. So this is why an Acharya of the spiritual knowledge is considered to be very high and much higher than of those of secular subjects. So then we did shloka number 22, where we have that Lord Krishna, basically said that I know you're looking for, I've given you that who is that Acharya then? Who is that absolute Shreshta Purusha? So he uses his own self as the example, and he says, Name Partha Asti Kartavyam. Name Partha Asti Kartavyam. There is Asti na Asti Kartavyam. There is nothing at all to be done by me. Where is there nothing to be done? So here he covers the entire Jagat in this world, but he also takes into account the higher worlds and the lower worlds. So all the 14 worlds. So Trishu Lokeshu Kinchana. There is absolutely nothing is done. No, nothing for me to be doing anything. Na Anavaptam Avaptam, which I have not already attained in the future to attain. So yet I engage myself in action. So you see the flow of thought from the previous shlokas here. He's trying to give himself as an example, saying that this is, so giving himself as the best example here. So, and we have seen this in all this, in everything that we have read about Sri Krishna and Mahabharata. In all the cases, he was there to protect the people. And in none of them did he ever have anything for himself. We have seen the many stories last time we talked about it. And coming to now, then the shloka number 23, we see that, but yet he does it. Why does he have to do it? Now, one may say that, okay, I understand that you have to protect the masses, but then there is really no need for you to do, right? He says, no, I do have to do this, because if I don't do it, there will be huge problems here. And what is it? Yadi hyaham na varteyam. Yadi hi aham na varteyam. If I do not engage myself, jatu karmanya atandritaha. Even in, I just cannot relax even for a second. I have to be completely engaged in this. The highest level of Shreshta Purusha again. Mama vartmanu anuvartante. Even if slightly he were to just relax, immediately people would follow it, because we are all creatures of habit. We love to be lazy. So he says, Mama vartma anuvartante. Manushyaha partha sarvashaha. By men in every respect, in every aspect of this situation, I have to be extremely careful about leading the way to the highest level. So that is why he says, I have to be engaged, otherwise things will be chaos. Now, we're coming to that shloka, which last time elicited quite a bit of discussion. And that is what he's saying in the next shloka, saying that if he does not engage himself, then there is going to be chaos, because it starts with people trying to relax. And what is that chaos? Let us see that. So the chaos is, we see that he wants to show that if this is why Sri Krishna is the absolute leader, because in that there is just not even an iota of fault we can find in him, and which is why he's saying Utsi de yurime lokaha. Utside yurime lokaha na kuryam karma cheda aham. Starting with that small amount of relaxation, what I said, if he were to relax, for example, the worlds would perish. Na kuryam karma chetaham. If I did not perform my action at the highest level, sankarasya cha kartasyam upahanyam imah prajaha. Sankarasya cha kartasyam upahanyam imah prajaha. So here the meaning that I had taken here is directly from our book, the Chinmaya Mission book here, where it says that Sankarasya, the word Sankarasya is the word that I wanted to focus on. Sankarasya, which is a confusion of caste. If you remember in chapter 1, we had Arjuna, saying that if he were to fight in the battle, and there would be so many people who would die. And in all these battles, we had actually the men who were participating, right? So if all the men were to die, there would be so many widows left. And when the widows are left, when people, there are very few men there, lots of women, and then you would have all the people who would, marry. One person may marry many women and all that, and that would lead to a lot of confusion of caste. And so because of that, the society would be spoiled. So that was what Arjuna's argument was against Sri Krishna when in the first chapter. So which is why Sri Krishna wanted to bring this aspect of Sankarasya to explain how and what will really cause that confusion. It is not at the level where Arjuna was saying, but it is from his level. From that point, he's trying to show how that confusion would come about. And I have a couple of slides here to explain this word of Sankarasya. And so let's look at that. So if you look at what is really Lord Krishna's role in this whole world. Now, for us, we are so used to looking Sri Krishna, especially with Mahabharata recently, where Swami Ramakrishnananda did a series on it. Our minds is that, well, Sri Krishna was there only to, not only, but his role, at least in the Mahabharata war, was to help out the Pandavas, to fight, to be on the role of Dharma, right? But here we are talking about Sri Krishna's mission is from a much, much higher level. We see that the entire operation of the world, it really depends on essentially the laws of physics. He is the driving force behind the universe. He's responsible for making sure everything is functioning very smoothly in terms of all the devas, and the sun and the moon, the, when we can have rainfall, when we can have enough of light. So he's responsible for all the planetary positions, everything. And if he did not keep an eye over all these deities, and if he did not give a certain guidance on how all this can govern in the entire universe, if he did not do that, then we can have really huge problems. Now, of course, we see huge problems only in the matter of fact of like tsunami or tornado or anything. But imagine if the sun decides to go on a vacation, even for a few minutes. We take our heat for granted here. So the heat and the cold of the sun has to be balanced in all this. So Sri Krishna is really, he takes care of the entire aspect of how the world really functions. Now let's come to the shloka itself in hand. The aspect is not only at that level of the way the whole rhythm of the universe goes, but also at the level of let's say the Manushya Dharma, and this aspect here, he's actually involved by making sure that each one of us follow the Swadharma, which is allocated according to our own castes, which we said. The last time I used the word gunas, and when we come to the next chapter, we'll be going more into the caste system and the gunas. What are the gunas which are predominant in the 4 classes, which is Brahmins, Kshatriyas, Vaisyas, and Shudras. But Sri Krishna is also responsible for making sure that all the caste system in terms of the functionalities of the humans are also maintained in good order. Now, this is why he's saying that, if he does not supervise this order of this 4 castes, especially if the Brahmins were not to, follow the the values which are in society, and if they were to neglect the duty and suppose they were to look into, maybe fighting the war or something, and if Kshatriyas decide that they want to follow they want to do the work of the Brahmins, or if, for example, the Vaishyas decide that they want to, instead of not taking care of the finance part of it or anything, that they want to do something else, or the Shudras, accordingly, then the world would really fall into pieces. Now, we see this even in companies, for example. Now, suppose somebody who doesn't really have the ability to lead the whole thing, but decides by hook or crook he wants to lead, then you see that such a company doesn't have a good vision and mission. Suppose somebody who doesn't really have the knowledge of science and research or whatever, and they were to come into the lab to do things, you can imagine that would also not work. So we see this kind of a 4 castes which is present not only in the society in how the whole functionalities are there, but even in micro levels in different areas. So all this, Krishna is responsible for keeping that system alive too. So this is why he says that shloka of Utside Yurime Lokaha, Na Kuryam Karma Chetaham. If he did not perform, Sankarasya Prajaha. So this is very important it is to maintain that structure in not just in the man social structure, but even in the big way, to keep that everything in rhythm. So that having said, now we go to the next 2 shlokas of 25 and 26. But maybe let's see, Usha is there. Or if any questions at this point on that, I don't mind taking it up before we go to the next one. Or is that clear? Meena, I think you had a question too on this one, right? Meena?
Yeah.
Are you there? Is this
Yes,
clear?
I'm here. Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. Any questions on this?
Probably I would think about it and then I will send you a message.
Okay. All right.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Yeah, please go ahead. Somebody said something? Okay. Okay, so then having explained, after Krishna really explained then from a high level, what is the role of a good leader, what is the highest level he can push himself, Arjuna, would have had a doubt. Why is, I guess most of Arjuna's doubts would have been cleared, but then for him, it is still that he would have wanted to know, as a leader then, because all this time we've been talking about the purity of a person and what and how the individual should act here. But now you see the next 2 shlokas which are coming in from the aspect of where Lord Krishna is taking us to, because Krishna first mentioned as a leader what he should be doing and what if he didn't do something, what would happen. So Arjuna must have had this doubt in his mind, then when tell me what I should be doing the right thing. How is it that I could potentially jeopardize the society? What actions of mine could lead to something like that? So with that, we have the next 2 shlokas, which are almost together, and we'll see this in detail now. Sakta karmanya vidvamsaha, Sakta karmanya vidvamsaha, Yatha kurvanti bharata, Yatha kurvanti bharata kuryad vidvans tatha saktah kuryat vidvan tatha saktah chikirshu loka sangraham chikirshu loka sangraham. So saktaha, which means attachment, saktaha karmani avidvamsaha. So vidwan means a wise one. Avidwan is a not a wise one. So you have saktaha karmani avidvamsaha. So he says the ignorant ones are attached to action. Yatha kurvanti bharata. Just as they act from their level, O Bharata, kuryat vidwan tatha asaktaha. So the same way, so just like the ignorant ones are attached to action, just as they act from the level, O Bharata, so too wise people, vidwan, so too vidwan, they also act in a similar way. So when you look at two different people, one is a vidwan and one is a not a vidwan, and you see both of them acting, say, in a project or whatever, you will not see a big difference. Both of them will be acting with enthusiasm, dedication, good teamwork, all that. There will be no difference. But the difference is, kuryat vidwan tatha asakta, so should the wise act. The difference is, the person who is attached to action, that person will always look for something in what is in it for me. Whereas the person who does not have any attachment to the fruits of the action, that person will be looking at only as how the project goes, not what the person would get from it. So this is how he's referring to as chikirshu loka sangraham. Loka, the world, sangraham, the welfare. Chikishu, that means desiring of only the welfare of the world. So sakta karmani avidvamsaha, people who are only in it, who are in a particular thing for what is in it for me, they are attached to the fruits of the action. Whereas the same thing, a wise person may exhibit all the, like I said, enthusiasm and everything, but such a person is acting only from a very high level of looking at for the goodness of the project or how the world, for the sake of the world. So this is what we see as it is all in the attitude. As such, there's not a big difference between the two people. So the attitude of this ignorant person, which we call the person ignorant, because the person is ignorant of his or her true nature. That is why we call ignorant. Ignorant doesn't mean that the person is ignorant of any subject. So such a person has only selfish motives. And they may work extremely hard. They may be putting 15, 18 hours a day, and they may earn a lot of extra money, but the only thing is for their own pleasures and for their own fame or anything. They may even work extremely well, very precise, and try to do everything by the book, but ultimately the whole thing is only for me and me alone. Whereas this attitude of somebody who is a wise person, the one who works with the asaktaha quality, such a person will work with fantastic energy, enthusiasm, etc. But such a person, the driving force for such a person is really not what is in it for me, but it is only to see the welfare of everything. So such a person is totally calm, cool, collected. So whether something goes well or something doesn't go well, such a person is always enthusiastic. So a very nice shloka again here, comparing the attitude of the two people. And one may never know this by looking at this, because you might see both these people being equally enthusiastic, working hard and everything, but you can see one person doesn't get stressed out at all. whereas the other person gets stressed because he or she is always looking for what is in it for me. And when that when that particular thing is not satisfied, such a person can get stressed out. So that's the difference in the attitudes. Which brings now to the next shloka number 26 here, where you see about this, how can really a leader work in the world in such a way that he or she doesn't disturb the people. That is the beauty here, which is shown in the shloka here. Na buddhi bhedam janayet, na buddhi bhedam janayet, ajnanam karma sanginam, ajnanam karma sanginam, joshayet sarva karmani, joshayet sarva karmani, vidwan yukta samacharan, vidwan yukta samacharan. So Lord Krishna is again advising that a person, a leader, is one who works very well with his or her team. How does a person work? He says the person works with na buddhi bhedam, bhedam, which is any division. Such a person works without any causing any kind of, I would say, confusion with the team. For example, every aspect of this person's words, there is a clarity in it, and they work in such a way that there is a trust which is established. There is no sense of an ego drive or whatever they might call it. So none of those. So na buddhi bedam janayet, without causing any unsettlement in the janaha, with the people. Ajnanam karma sanginam, of the ignorant who are attached to actions. So in the previous shloka, we saw the description of two people, the ignorant and the wise. So here he's saying the wise are those people who work with the people who are even attached to all these things, but they do it in such a way by joshayet sarva karmani, by themselves engaging in all actions. Vidwan yukta samacharan, but by engaging with them in all actions, but in all of them, the wise acts without being affected at all. The person is always very balanced in anything and everything they do. So this is a true mark of a leader, that a leader never puts down the team member by saying, if the person is not doing the job well, the person would never call such a person as a fool or anything like that, but will just slowly, with a lot of compassion, bring the person up to a level from all the way, even if a person is, say, tamasic or something like that. So as an example, if, for example, is just, somebody wants to not do anything at all, the wise person will slowly bring the person from a very tamasic level to a rajasic level to a sattvic level. Like, for example, the example is given as, if you have somebody who doesn't want to get up at all, then what you would do is tell the person that, hey, don't you want to have a pillow for sleeping? Wouldn't that help you? So the person maybe, he may just walk around and just try to get a pillow and try to be comfortable. So to that extent, he's put some effort from the tamasic level of, just sleeping or something. And then next thing, a leader would do is try to tell this person, oh, okay, now you're sleeping on a pillow. What about a bed? Don't you think you should sleep on a bed? Wouldn't that be better for you? Now this person will then think, okay, so if I have to sleep on a bed, I have to do a little more work to earn some money to get a nice bed for myself. So he does that. He gets a bed, and then he starts to that extent, he's now come up from a tamasic to a little more rajasic, and he works a little more to get a bed. And once after he's given a bed, maybe this leader would tell him that, okay, now that you have a nice bed here, don't you think you need to, work a little more to get a better house? And so from there on, slowly and slowly, he brings them up to such a level, and that he might tell him, okay, now that you have here, don't you think you want to attend a spiritual lecture? So once he starts to attend a spiritual lecture, then he will really try to understand what, where his goal is. So this would be just an example on how a person would do it. So don't you think these are great examples even for us, for parenting, or even in the community and everything, never putting people down, but just bringing them up one step at a time. So that's what this shloka beautifully is bringing out, this aspect of na buddhi bedam, without causing any unsettlement, trying to bring the person who's attached to very, very simple things to slowly try to get over their attachment, and all the time trying to maintain that sense of equipoise and balance and compassion to the people around them. So 2 examples of leadership, again from the 3rd chapter. And with that, we will stop here. And if anybody has any question on this one, we can take it up. Otherwise, we can finish. The next 2 shlokas are even on the same lines, very beautiful, where Arjuna then, must have asked a question about, then why does an ajnani or an ignorant person, why do they want to remain attached? And how do they really, and why does a wise man remain unattached? So we'll see some of those next time. But again, any questions? Because we have a few minutes, we can address it.
Hari Om.
Suvarna?
Would it be possible to give another example about how to motivate others or motivate ourselves from being a tamasic to rajasic to sattvic? A few more easy to understand examples if possible.
Yeah, very, very good question, Suvarna. I mean, individually for us, the examples from a tamasic to a rajasic to a sattvic would be, if we are in a position, or okay, individually for us, sometimes if I'm tamasic, for example, it is extremely hard for me to get motivated because I am in a level where I love my tamas, right? So by an individual sense, it is almost, I would say, difficult, but only by the grace of God and by the grace of gurus. At some point, if a thought comes to a head, you know what, why is it this person who is in, say, for example, if I'm in a project or something and I'm constantly lazy, I don't want to do any work for the project. But if I see somebody who's very enthusiastic, running around doing things, then to that extent, I might get enthused by, hey, that person is running around, that person seems to be successful. Maybe I can also do a little bit of running or whatever, and see where I can get to this. So in that sense, we can individually motivate. But as a person who wants to motivate another person without even telling that other person to, hey, get up and do something, the best way would be is if I keep transforming myself, then what happens is I can be a role model for somebody else. But there is no, it is, of course, when I transform myself, it's really good for me, but indirectly, I can be a good role model for somebody without really forcing another person to do it. So I know I spoke in very general terms here, but from a parenting point of view, I can see that how great, how, the shloka can be applied, where for my child, knowing where the child is. For example, if the child really doesn't want to be, let's take an extreme example of, wanting to be a doctor or something like that. the child is just, happy, contented wherever he or she is with doing, doing some simple degree or whatever. The idea then is that there should be no way that I should force the child to get into medicine or whatever, but slowly trying to, see where the child is going, help them to evolve one step at a time, not to bring about an immediate change from a high level or something. Any other examples that others can think about?
Thank you, Hariom. Thank you.
You're welcome, Suvarna, but I don't know if I gave you the right answer, but
It
more
does
and
help.
more,
It does help.
so more and more your mind gets into spiritual things and thinking, I mean, listening to spiritual lectures, and automatically we get some little bit of motivation. That's what
right.
I personally feel.
Definitely. I mean, see, right now we are at 8:30 time frame. It is such a tamasic period of the day. But in spite of it, so many of you, are wanting to know such a sattvic text like Bhagavad Gita, right?
Yes.
That's a great motivation. So
that itself is a great motivation. That's what I said. Yeah.
yes. Anybody else? But this is, again, so we have to only look within ourselves throughout the whole day at what are the tamasic or rajasic activities and sattvic activities that I'm doing. And for ourselves, we can actually monitor even every day, what is my SRT? I call this as a sattvic, rajasic, tamasic, SRT quotient or something like that, and see how I'm improving for my own self. That would be one way I would think where we can change the composition of our activities from tamasic to rajasic to sattvic. But for others, the only way we can do it, as in chapter 3, what it says is be the role model. Do it, just do it, not just talk about it. And we can, others will see that as a role model and get transformed. So think about it. Maybe next week we'll use this as a reflection tool to see how many more examples we can come up with. I will also come up with a few more examples and we can talk about it. So with that, we'll finish. Sarve bhavantu sukhinah, sarve santu niramayaha, sarve bhadrani pashyantu, ma kaschid dukkha bhag bhavet. Om shanti shanti shanti. Om purnamadah purnamidam purnat purnamudachyate purnasya purnamadaya purnameva vashishyate. Om shanti shanti shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.
Thank you, Hari Om.
Hari Om.